The corridors of Walter Reed National Military Medical Center carried a hushed weight that morning. Nurses moved quickly, doctors whispered, and families sat in anxious silence. In one wing, a quiet stir passed through the staff. President Donald Trump was scheduled to visit not for cameras, but to meet recovering service members and their families. Colonel James Turner, a decorated Air Force pilot, had survived a near-fatal crash during a training exercise. At his bedside sat his wife, Lisa, and their two children, Emily, 20, a cadet in the Air Force Academy, and Michael, 16. Still restless with teenage uncertainty, Lisa held James's hand, her lips moving in silent prayer. Emily stood straight in her cadet uniform, trying to mask the tremor in her jaw. Michael fidgeted with the laces of his sneakers, his worry spilling out in restless energy. Lisa wasn't sure what to feel. Politics meant little to her now. Her only concern was her husband's recovery. Emily, however, remembered her father's words. No matter what you think of a leader, you respect the office. It represents the country we serve. Secret Service swept the halls. Nurses straightened the bed. A nurse peeked in. He's almost here. James tried to push himself upright. His body, still bruised, protested every movement. James, please don't, Lisa whispered, adjusting his blanket, but he shook his head. If the Commander-in-Chief walks in, I'll greet him on my feet, Evan, if only halfway. Emily's eyes welled at his determination. Michael, less impressed, muttered, he doesn't need a politician. He needs a doctor. Lisa rested a hand on his shoulder. Sometimes people show up not because they have to, but because they want to. The door opened, President Trump entered, flanked by agents and staff. His presence filled the small room, but his face softened when he saw the family. He stepped toward James and extended a hand. Colonel Turner, it's an honor. Thank you for your service and sacrifice. James, trembling but resolute, rose with Emily's support. His voice cracked, but he met the president's grip. Sir, the honor is mine, always ready to serve. Trump turned to Lisa and the children. You have a brave husband and father. Families like yours are the backbone of this nation. Your sacrifices are just as great. Emily stood straighter. Sir, I'm following in his footsteps. The Air Force is my future. Trump studied her, then smiled. Your father must be proud, and I can see why. Michael hung back, arms crossed. Trump noticed, crouched down to his eye level, and said lightly, You're the tough one, aren't you? Your dad needs that strength too. Michael's frown softened. For the first time, he felt seen. The visit stretched longer than expected. Trump sat beside the bed, listening. James haltingly described the crash and his gratitude to still be alive. Lisa spoke of the sleepless nights, the fear of loss. Emily confessed, voice tight, Sir, my father taught me leadership is about responsibility, not power. That's why I want to serve, but sometimes I'm afraid I won't be strong enough. Trump leaned forward. Courage isn't the absence of fear. It's pressing forward in spite of it. Look at your father, he's proof. Emily held on to those words like fuel. Then Michael spoke, quiet but raw. Everyone talks about heroes. No one talks about the families when heroes don't come home. What if Dad doesn't make it back next time? The room fell still. James clenched his jaw. Lisa blinked back tears. Trump didn't flinch. He placed a hand on Michael's shoulder. You're right. Families serve too. Sometimes their battles are harder. Your strength matters for your dad, your mom, your sister. Michael swallowed hard. The words sank deep. Before leaving, James asked Lisa to fetch a folded paper from the drawer. He handed it to Trump. Double quotes, Sir, I wrote this after my last mission. I never thought I'd hand it to anyone. It's not a complaint. It's a truth. Trump unfolded the letter and read silently. The words were raw. The birthdays missed, Lisa's lonely nights, Emily's fears, Michael's silence. Not medals, but sacrifices unseen. When he finished, Trump folded it carefully, slipping it into his jacket. Colonel, I'll carry this with me. Not on a desk, on me. Because it isn't just your story, it's every military family's story, and it needs to be heard. He shook their hands once more and left. The room lingered in silence. James exhaled, exhausted but faintly smiling. Sometimes it takes more than orders to lead. It takes humanity. Lisa brushed Michael's hair back. What's on your mind? He shrugged. I just don't want Dad's words to disappear. Emily squeezed his shoulder. They won't. You heard him. 2 days later, televisions in the hospital hummed with news. At a veterans event in Washington, the president pulled a folded paper from his jacket. This is from an Air Force pilot I visited just days ago. But really it's from every military family. The Turners froze as they watched him read James's letter, allowed the loneliness, the courage, the hidden costs of service. His voice was steady, but heavy with emotion. Across the audience, faces softened, some streaked with tears. For the Turners, it was proof. Their story had not disappeared. It had become something larger. Lisa gasped, her hand flying to her mouth. Emily's eyes widened, pride shining through. Michael leaned forward, unable to look away. Colonel James's hands trembled not from weakness this time, but from the weight of hearing his private words carried into the world, Trump concluded, his voice firm but heavy with meaning. This letter is not just paper. It is a reminder that every mission, every uniform, every medal has a family standing behind it. And we owe them more than gratitude, we owe them action. The audience erupted in applause. Back in the hospital room, Michael whispered, almost in disbelief, he actually did it. Emily turned to her father, her voice bright. Dad, your voice just became every soldier's voice. Lisa leaned down, kissing James's forehead through blurred tears. You've always been my hero. Now the whole country knows why. The morning after the speech, the Turner family's world shifted. The phone rang constantly, emails poured in, letters arrived by the stack. One mother wrote, I lost my son overseas. Your words gave me comfort I didn't think I'd ever feel again. A fellow pilot messaged, Brother, you spoke what we've all carried, but never said out loud. Thank you. Lisa read the messages aloud, her voice trembling. James, do you realize what you've done? James, still weak in bed, shook his head softly. I only wrote what was in my heart. I never thought anyone outside this room would ever see it. Emily sat by the window, scrolling through her phone. It's everywhere, Dad. People are sharing your letter, talking about military families. It's trending. Michael grinned shyly. You're kind of famous now, James chuckled, wincing from the effort. Fame isn't what matters. If even one family feels less alone because of those words, then it's worth everything. Lisa squeezed his hand. It already has, and it's just the beginning. That night, Emily walked the dim hospital corridor alone, her cadet uniform catching the pale light. Her father's words echoed in her chest. She had always dreamed of serving, but fear often shadowed her steps. What if I'm not strong enough? What if I fail? She paused at a window, staring into the vast night sky. Somewhere above those clouds, her father once flew, risking everything. She whispered into the dark, Dad, I promise I'll carry your mission forward. When she returned, her eyes were steady. Lisa asked, Emily, are you all right? Emily nodded with resolve. I've made my decision. I won't just follow in Dad's footsteps. I'll carve my own path. I'll serve with courage, not fear. James smiled, pride glowing through his exhaustion. That's my girl. Remember, strength isn't about never breaking. It's about rising after you do. Michael smirked. Guess that makes you Captain Braveheart now. Emily laughed, but her resolve held firm. The letter hadn't only inspired strangers, it had ignited something inside her. Michael, however, carried his own battle. That night, sleep eluded him. The sterile smell, the machine's rhythmic beeps, the memory of his father, almost slipping away all of it, gnawed at him. He whispered into the darkness, I don't want to be strong. I just want him to be okay. By morning, he found a note on the bedside table, scrawled in shaky handwriting. Michael, being strong doesn't mean you don't hurt. It means you keep going for the ones you love. That's what I see in you. Never doubt it. Dad Michael read it over and over, his throat tight. For the first time, he felt less alone in his fear. He tucked the note into his pocket. He wasn't ready to call himself strong yet, but one day he would be 2 days later. 3 families who had lost loved ones in service came to Walter Reed to meet James. One mother, clutching a folded flag, whispered through tears, Your letter said everything I couldn't. It gave me peace. James, humbled, reached for her hand. Your son's sacrifice is the reason families like mine still get to hold on. He's the hero. The families hugged Lisa, Emily, and Michael. For a moment, grief and healing intertwined. Emily whispered to a young widow, "You're stronger than I could ever be." The widow replied softly, "Strength doesn't mean you don't cry. It means you keep standing anyway." Those words lingered long after the visit ended. Through it all, Lisa remained the quiet pillar. She cooked small meals, coordinated with doctors, encouraged her children, and held James's hand every night. Yet, in private, she often cried in the hospital bathroom, where no one could see. Bills, the kid's future, the haunting possibility of loss, it weighed on her constantly. Then Trump's words replayed in her mind. Families serve too. Sometimes their battles are harder. For years, she had felt invisible. Now, for the first time, she felt seen. Sometimes being seen was enough to keep going. A week later, Emily received an envelope with the presidential seal. Inside was a handwritten note. "Emily, your father's courage is in you too. Don't doubt it. The Air Force needs leaders like you. Serve with honor, and you'll make your family and your country proud." Donald J. Trump. Emily clutched the letter to her chest, tears filling her eyes. It wasn't just encouragement, it was validation. She showed her father, who smiled weakly. "Even the president sees what I've always known." Emily's heart swelled. Whatever the road ahead, she would walk it with courage. Meanwhile, Michael stumbled across a video of Trump reading his father's letter. The comments below struck him most. "This letter gave me strength to face another day. I never thought anyone understood what families go through until now." Michael realized that it wasn't just about their family. His father's words carried the weight of thousands. For the first time, he felt pride, not just fear. "I get it now," he told James quietly. "We're not just a family. We're part of a mission, too." James smiled. "That's all I ever wanted you to see, son." Weeks passed. James pushed through painful therapy, step by step. Each victory a stretch. A walk with a cane was met with cheers from Lisa, Emily, and Michael. One afternoon, as he walked the hallway with determination, nurses applauded. Emily saluted playfully. Michael gave him a high five. Lisa whispered, "I never doubted you." James chuckled. "I doubted me a few times." But he wasn't just walking for himself anymore. He carried the strength of every family touched by his letter. Months later, the Turners were invited to Washington for a ceremony. James stood tall with his cane beside his family. From the stage, Trump shared their story not to spotlight one man, but to honor every military family. Behind every uniform is a family that serves to. Today, we honor them as much as we honor those in uniform. The audience rose in applause. Lisa squeezed James's hand. Emily's heart soared. Michael beamed without hesitation. At the Air Force Academy, Emily later stood in formation, her uniform sharp beneath the sun. When her turn came, she raised her hand in salute, not just to the flag, but to every sacrifice, every family, every unspoken battle. That day, she was no longer just a cadet. She was a leader in the making. On the sidelines, Michael watched with pride. He wasn't in uniform, but he made his own vow to live with purpose, to carry his father's lessons, to stand strong for his family. Strength, he finally understood, wasn't medals or uniforms. It was love, loyalty, and courage in the face of fear. Lisa, once invisible in her own eyes, was now called the quiet hero of the story. She didn't need recognition, but the acknowledgement brought peace. She knew her role as anchor, as heart, as unseen warrior was vital. Years later, the Turners gathered at a family reunion. James, older but proud, sat with Lisa at his side. Emily now served as an officer. Michael worked helping veterans. On their wall hung the framed letter that had started it all. Michael asked, "Dad, do you ever regret writing it?" James shook his head. Not for a second. That letter wasn't just mine. It was ours, and it will outlive all of us. Lisa rested her head against his shoulder. That's our legacy, not just service, but love. As laughter filled the room, they knew the truth. Sometimes the smallest words can carry the greatest weight. A letter that began as one man's private truth had become the voice of thousands, a reminder that behind every hero is a family.